want to tell you guys about the first time that I want to tell you guys about the first time that I met my mom after I was adopted. I was in Alaska and I tried when I was in middle school to keep in contact with my mom after I was adopted, and my adopted family said when you're 18 then you can ask these questions and she could maybe be in your life, but until then don't try to contact her. Me being me, I was going to do what I wanted to do, and I tried to stay in touch. This was at the beginning of the email thing, and I had tried to stay in contact with her, and then I lost contact with her. And it wasn't until a few years later when I was um, wrapping up high school that she had reached out through Facebook, or she had reached out through like MySpace or something, and um, we had gotten back in touch, and there was this national conference called It's My Life. It's sponsored by Casey Family Programs based out of Seattle, Washington, and they every year back when I was in high school they did this national retreat for youth who were in foster care at some point in their life. And it was this huge gathering from a whole bunch of kids that had been put into the foster care system, but then they had all formed these ally groups of how they were going to promote for positive change and the foster care system. So Alaska had our group, and we went down to these conferences, and then we met up with a lot of different youth from a lot of different places, and they all had their own ally groups, and they wanted to advocate for a change so that things that happened to us during the foster care system times wouldn't happen to a future generation. And we had gotten this conference. There was one conference that happened in Los Angeles, and there was another one that happened in Sacramento. There's another one that happened in Baltimore, and this one year there was a conference that happened in Atlanta, Georgia. And through correspondence with my biological mother, I knew that she was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I I had just graduated, so I didn't know like the whole geography of the United States, and I called her and I was just like, hey, I don't know how far Atlanta is from you, um, but I'm gonna be there for a conference. If you want to come down there and meet me, it's in the South, kind of, so I feel like that's geographically close to you. If there's a chance that you want to see me after 12 years of not seeing me, this is when I was 18, um, then that's where I'm going to be. So she had planned this trip and she confirmed she was going to be there. So me just graduating high school, I had gone I had gotten this perspective of like, okay, this person has had 12 years without me. 12 years without any kids, 12 years without, you know, any added responsibility. They've had 12 years to focus on them. So this is 12 years to get a job, 12 years to find a car. Um, so I set my expectations really, really high that this person was going to have 12 years um, to just become phenomenal and really amazing. And I showed up to the conference and I got checked in. We were on this Renaissance Inn off of Peachtree in Atlanta, Georgia. And I don't know if you know this hotel, but they filmed like the Hunger Games in it, and it had this huge elevator, and it goes like 44 stories high, and like this, just like this huge atrium that you're like, this is insane. And coming from Alaska, it felt like it was like a coliseum. Um, so I got checked in. The conference was happening, and a whole bunch of foster youth that were there. Like, we just felt like we ran the whole place, because everything was saying, welcome panel members, welcome presenters, welcome It's My Life participants. And it was awesome. And everybody got their own rooms, and people that wanted to share rooms could share rooms. I ended up getting my own room. So by the time I got down there, it was after like flying from Alaska to the other coast. So I was jet lagged, and because I had flown the entire day, and I started to wonder. I was like, okay, like is this biological parent gonna show up for me, like she said she would? And I got checked into the hotel and hung out with my group, and we were just hanging out. Then my phone rang, and she said that she was at the bus station, and she was trying to find me, but she had made it. She had taken a bus from Memphis to Atlanta, and she had made it down to see me. So I didn't know what to expect, and I told her that we were at the Renaissance and come on over. So she said that she was going to leave her bags at the bus station, and then she was going to come over and see me, and then we were going to go from there. So she came over and she met us in the lobby, and my entire foster care group like met her and saw her, and she was really, really small when I went to like visit her, like at the jail visits that I went and saw her in. She was like really skinny. By this point, 12 years later, she had put on some weight, and then I think that she was missing more teeth. Like, she used to have gold teeth, but then like they were gone. So my expectations were a little bit off, and they were off looks wise, but then I was also like, okay, this is an adult, they're going to have their own accommodations, and we'll meet in the middle while I'm doing this conference, and then we'll just touch base as we go. And she came over from the bus station, and then she was like, it's so good to see my baby after all this time, and it was good to see her. And I was like, yeah, I recognize her voice, and it was almost like nothing had changed. And I was just like, wow, like I graduated high school, and now I'm meeting my biological mom after all this time. Like, this is crazy. And then she asked if she could stay in my hotel room during my conference. And that kind of like threw me off a little bit, because I was just like, I thought you just took a bus down here and then you were going to get set up somewhere and we were going to meet in the middle. So I wasn't expecting at 18 years old that I was going to have my mom sleeping in the same hotel room as me. So I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I mean, this doesn't happen often, so yeah, go have a key to my hotel room. So if I rewind a little bit, I just graduated high school. I was getting ready for college, and this was me just getting the start of creativity. So I just bought my first camera, and I just bought my first laptop, and it was a Rebel XT, and it was an HP laptop, and I was like, I am loaded up for this trip to Atlanta. I'm going to take so many pictures, and it's going to be awesome. So fast forward, I give my biological mother, who I haven't seen after 12 years, my key to into my hotel room with all my stuff in it. So my mind starts to race and wonder a little bit, because I don't feel like there's anything wrong with it, but then people in my foster care group are like, you gave her a key to your room with all your stuff? And you haven't seen her in how long? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Right? So I ultimately decide that it's not fine. And I rush to the desk and I say, hey, I lost my key. Can I get a spare key? They say, yeah, here's what's your last name? And who did you check in under? And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this and this and this. And they're like, yep, here's an extra key. So I know that my mom is going back to the bus station to pick up her bags. And then she's coming back to the hotel. So I get my key and I start asking my friends, hey, can I put my stuff in your room because my mom is about to go into my hotel room? They say yes. So then I rush upstairs as fast as I can rush upstairs in a 44-story hotel, and I get up to my room that I had just flown across the country for, and I repack all of my stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to run it over to my friend's room, and this is going to be crisis averted. And I pack up my laptop, and I pack up my camera, and I pack up my backpack, and I load the whole hotel room up, and I walk out the door, and my mom is getting off of the elevators, and she's wondering what I'm doing holding all of my stuff. Well, I was just going to give you more space to have in the room, because I wanted you to be comfortable in the room. She saw through that pretty quick. Why do you have all your stuff, Darius? Well, I was gonna go load up with another friend. So we're gonna bunk up, and then you can have the room. So that I look stupid, and she's like, "Did you think I was gonna steal from you?" And then I ultimately just come clean about it. I'm just like, I don't think so, but I haven't seen you in a really long time, and I don't know what's going on, so I just figured I'd load everything up. I'm sorry. That's how the trip started. That's how the trip started off. So that's how the trip started off. Not the best note to start off a trip of seeing a biological parent. So, as the conference goes on, they start having breakout sessions. And then my mom is tagging along to the breakout sessions with me while we're presenting on panels and while we're attending other workshops. So then they break out for lunch. My mom breaks out for lunch. They break out the snacks. My mom piles up on the snacks. And I wasn't like upset about it, but it was just kind of like, I don't know. At 18 years old, it was just kind of like, it felt weird to me. It felt odd that this was happening. And I didn't understand why it was happening, but it was just kind of like, when I thought of a visit after all this time, this wasn't how I had pictured it. I don't know how I had pictured it, but it wasn't this. So the more that the conference goes on, the more that my mom starts suggesting that we go shopping. She wants to buy me some suits. She wants to buy me some clothes and presents, and she wants to buy me stuff. And then I'm just like, well, I don't need any of that right now, and thank you for the gesture, but I'm okay. I'm good. Um, when we had discussed some things when she had first gotten settled in the hotel room, and she gave me some clarification of like how she felt that the state was working against her, and she wasn't going to be able to get custody of me again, and then by the time that like maybe there was a hope that she would get me back, I had already been with the foster family that would ultimately adopt me. So she didn't want to disrupt that continuity in my life. So then she felt like it was better if she just let me go. And she had clarified that to me, and that started off the visit because once we had like after we had that conversation that we had that conversation after I had loaded up all of my stuff, and she had stepped off the elevator. So this was like bad news, and then we have a conversation, and then 18-year-old me felt like it was bad news of just like she gave up on me. Um, she didn't come back for me, and I was right in the same place that she left me if she had stuck it out a little bit longer. So I felt a little bit slighted that she was in Memphis and I was in Alaska, and I was raised in a different family while she was living her life. So 18-year-old me didn't really know how to process that, so then I just got a little bit quiet, and I was like, I'm doing this conference, and I guess we'll meet in the middle. I mean, you're sleeping in my hotel room, so I know exactly where to find you. Um, so then, like, I mean, the visit just got more awkward from there. Um, of just being like, okay, this is where the things are falling, but I'm in Atlanta. I'm in Georgia. Like, this is my, like, I'm on the other side of the country from being in Alaska. I'm going to explore it. I'm going to go to the Coca-Cola Museum. I'm going to go see if I can get on that CNN tour. Like, I wanted to check things out. And then being jet lagged from being on the other side of the country, then I was just like, I don't want to go to my hotel room either. I'm wide awake right now. Like, it just felt weird to me to not explore and to go to my hotel room and connect with this person who just wanted to buy me stuff. And it felt like she was trying to be a mom after 12 years, after I had already been adopted and had a mom for 12 years. So I didn't know how to deal with it, so I just didn't deal with it. And the visit wrapped up, and I was like, okay, well, I fly out in the morning after like the closing comments of the conference, and I don't know when your bus gets here, but I think this is it. Like, this is going to be our last night. Um, but then I think that we were like going to Dave and Buster's or something. So like, there was never like an intimate moment to be like, okay, let's sit down and talk and have a mother son moment. It was just kind of like, this is where I'm at. This is what's happening. See ya. Um, so then I woke up the next morning for the closing comments, and she had already gotten on her bus to go back up to Memphis. And the whole trip just ended on a weird note of just being like, I don't know what happened, but it happened. And that's all I know. And then I flew back to Alaska, and I was focused on becoming a college student and not letting the things of my past affect my future. So I went back to Alaska and I got enrolled for classes, and I was ready to be normal. I was ready to start my life as an adult with maybe a rocky past, but focused on having a bright future. And I wanted to keep that. So I get back to Alaska, and my mom starts to keep calling me. And then she starts to email me. And she starts to, I don't know what she wants. Like, to connect, to talk to me, but I'm 18. I'm not trying to talk to my mom. And then it felt like I was busy. Like I was like, you know, full-time job. So I'm working my way through college and like taking 9 credits. So then it's a 10-hour day, and then night school, and then wake up at 5 and do it all over again. So it was just kind of like, I wanted to stay focused, and I had my own kind of grind, and there was no room for anything extra that would deter me from accomplishing my goals. So she kept calling, and then I kept ignoring the calls, and she kept emailing, and I kept ignoring the emails, and then it ultimately just stopped. She just stopped. And at that age, I felt like it was just like, you left me here. You left me this way. If you wanted to reach out and you wanted to talk to me, you know the state that I'm in, and it was always relayed to me from my adoptive family that if my mom wanted to have me in her life or to be a part of my life, the door was always opened, and she could come by the house, and it would kind of be like a supervised thing, but she would still be allowed to know me. So then it felt that after the Atlanta visit, it felt that she knew exactly where to find me, and just decided not to. So I ignored her, and I focused on being a good person and focused on accomplishing my dreams and goals despite my past and despite what happened to me before. So if I was abandoned and abused by people in my past, I'm looking forward. I can't think about what's back there. I can't think about all the hurt and all the stuff. I'm just like, I don't have time to be in pain right now. I don't have time for it. So I'm ignoring everybody from then, and I'm moving forward, and I'm starting my own life, and this is me. And it wasn't until about 10 years later when I thought to myself that I don't know the first 5 years of my life. I don't know what happened. If I'm being honest with myself, I don't know. I know I've heard stories and things kind of come through in sections, but I don't know the full, complete thing. And then in my advocacy group, we were always talking about how many placements we had been in, what our parents had gone through, and what we had seen. And I was always able to just kind of float through on like bits and pieces of information because I knew that I had moved placements a few times, but it wasn't as high as some people were going, like 14 or 22 placements or 46 placements. But I knew that like I had jumped around a little bit, and I knew that I'd moved schools a couple times, um, but it wasn't anything like astronomical. But I didn't know on paper the specific details related to my story. I didn't know. So if I wanted to, which I didn't, but if I wanted to, I can just make anything up that I wanted. I could make up. I switched schools 10 times. I was in 20 different placements, and then I got adopted at 8. But I knew that it wasn't to that degree. My story didn't happen to that degree. And so then I started reflecting on my story 10 years after I had met my mom, and I started thinking about like my future relationships, and anybody that I tell that I'm adopted, they're just like, well, have you ever tracked down that side of your family? And it's always the same ones, and it's just like, no desire, no need, blah blah blah. Or it was like, well, yeah, I met my biological mother once, didn't like what she had to say, didn't meet my expectations. That's it. And I thought that was pretty selfish, that it was pretty rude, and that is where things would stay if I didn't change. And my future kids would ask me about lineage or bloodline, and it's like, yeah, I've met the bloodline, didn't like what they had to say when I was 18, never talked to them again. I didn't want that to be my story. I didn't want that to be my legacy of just like, yeah, I had a chance to understand and I chose not to. I had a chance to forgive and I didn't. And I wanted that. I wanted that to happen. So after I had numerous amount of jobs and graduated college and kind of had like that structure and that foundation of who I am, who Michael is in life, then I felt like it was like, well, I can be all these things, but if I don't know, or if I don't understand, or if I don't forgive my past, then all of this stuff is in vain. All of these accolades, like, they really fall short unless I'm able to bring everything full circle and I'm able to fill in the pieces. So I was really hoping for a do-over, and because I wanted to be better, and I didn't want to be a hypocrite of saying like, be better than your circumstances, be better than your past. You can rise from this. And I didn't want to be a hypocrite and then just be like, well, yeah, I was able to be better, but I never forgave, or I never understood, or I never listened. And I wanted to be better. So I reached out to my mom again, and I asked if she would be willing to sit down and talk with me after all this time. And I asked if she was okay. And I made the trip, and I wanted some clarity, and I wanted some concrete, like, what happened? Why did this happen? And there were parts of it where she wouldn't tell me, but I had a friend over there, and my friend was able to ask her questions that she was able to open up to a little bit. And then once she was able to open up to him a little bit, then she was able to open up to me. And then that's where we're able to get real, and we're able to get honest, and I was able to understand. And the more I understood, the more that I was able to forgive, and she forgave me for how I acted in Georgia and how I acted at a young age. And after she forgave me, and after I forgave her, I felt like it was just a lot of weight that was lifted. And the weight was lifted because I understood. And seeing things from her perspective, maybe I wouldn't have done them the same way, but when you go through a divorce and back and forth, there's games being played, and you're in the middle of Alaska in the middle of winter, and you have no resources or family around you, maybe I would have responded the same way. Maybe I would have felt as lost as she felt. And these are mistakes that she made in her early 20s. And I know that there's mistakes that I've made in my early 20s. And I know that there's mistakes that my friends have made in their early 20s. And if you are penalized on something you did years and years ago, and people don't let go of it, is that fair? I don't feel like that's fair. I don't feel like that is, it's worth bringing up. I think people mess up, and I think people want to do better. But that's life, right? That's life, is messing up. And then having the awareness to know that I didn't want to do that, or I shouldn't have done that. I don't think anybody's lived that perfect life of just being like, everything just kind of worked out and I knew what to do and it kind of showed its own path. And you have to mess up and you have to fall short in order for like the real life to hit you and to take hold, and for the real change to stick, and for that real motivation. People are motivated to be better because they know what it looks like when things are really, really bad. People are motivated to get money because they know what life was like without money. speaking with my mom and understanding her perspective, I could see where she was coming from. And I didn't harbor any ill will, or I wasn't looking for an apology, or like, like I wasn't looking for an interrogation or a guilt trip, anything. All I wanted was understanding. And it was that understanding that motivated me to want understanding from everyone involved in my story. What was the perspective? What was going on? If given the same circumstances, would I have done the same thing? Understanding now, there's a lot of things that I would have. No, I probably wouldn't have done the same thing. But once you see what people were living through, and then it's just kind of like that makes sense. That makes sense in my story for why this happened, why this played out the way it played out. That checks out. And I'm telling you this because this is not to put my business all the way out there, or to shine a light on what I thought of my mother when I was 18 years old. I'm telling you this to let you know that I messed up, that I was flawed, and I wasn't willing to hear somebody out. And it wasn't until years later that I wanted to correct that. I wanted to be better. So I'm hoping that this story, this small instance, can help somebody open up, or overcome, or soften their heart to just hear somebody out, or to see it from their perspective and walk a mile in their shoes, and just to understand, to empathize, to put yourself into their situation, and just to, I get it. At the end of the day, people just want to be heard. And if you hear people out, I feel that there's healing there. And it doesn't have to be from a place of, I'm going to hear you out so that I can better make my mind up, or I can better solidify that, yep, I was right all along, that I should have iced you out a long time ago. But if you just hear somebody out, just for the sake of letting them walk you through how this happened, I feel like there's power in that.